All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Wednesday morning, November 19th, 2025 is the date here, 9:13 in the a.m. West Coast time. Latest activity here on the earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.4 across California. Also some moderate movement up there across the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench once again. But first, we're going to cover California activity, where we had another three-pointer overnight down here across the San Luis Obispo area. That is more than likely associated with the oceanic fault zone out here. It's a fairly lengthy fault that historically has seen some large earthquake activity. I pulled up the model here of historical earthquake activity in this region. It's happening just north of where a pretty decent earthquake struck back in 1829. There was a 6.0 that struck here, and that looks like that's the only historical one out here. There's some larger activity up north, maybe associated with the northern end of the oceanic fault, that 6.5 striking in 2003, and then we had a 6.2 back in 1952. But, this area down here looking a little absent of large-scale movement and a lot of older, large activity out here. I mean, 1829, that was quite a while ago, so there's been quite a bit of accumulated slip on this fault system here, where we're seeing a little decent amount of earthquake activity. Let's go back and take a look here. This all started off here yesterday with a four-pointer. Let me see what we got here in the last week. Yeah, that only brings up one more earthquake. So this stirred up yesterday with a 4.1, originally coming in as a 4.5. Number of smaller quakes in the 2 range, and there's that three-pointer that struck about 1 o'clock in the morning down here, 3.3. Got to watch this here, because the amount of time that has passed has definitely been sufficient enough to build up some big earthquake activity. And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, geographically speaking, it is just parallel here with the locked area of the Parkfield section of the San Andreas Fault. Now, that earthquake zone there has a reoccurrence interval of roughly 12 to 32 years. Our last one was back in 2004. So the average here, can come sooner or it could come a little bit later, but average is 22 years. So we're actually just about at that level. So we should be seeing a 6-pointer there across this area sometime soon. It's got these regular reoccurrence intervals, and it's almost like clockwork in this along that area of the plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault there. Not the big one. The big one would be the southern end of the San Andreas Fault, which, possibly the six-pointer could trigger the southern branch. There's been a little bit of chat about how locked this thing is, and six-pointer just upstream here could potentially unzip that locked area of the southern branch. But for now, just watching this area along the Coast Range. Again, it's just to the west here of the San Andreas Fault, north of San Luis Obispo, and it's got definitely got some interesting activity out here. We'll watch these magnitudes, see if this doesn't pick up into something a little bit bigger. It's very complex structure out here of faults. I mean, Southern California in general is a major spiderweb network of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of faults out here, some that we may not even have discovered yet. But this area out here definitely been quiet for a little bit as far as larger movement goes. It's right there literally where we've watched a little bit of activity on the Parkfield section of the San Andreas Fault here in the last 30 days, but nothing further south here across the remainder of that locked area where it gets into the southern end. So I find it interesting here that all this activity has just come to a halt right here across the North American side of the plate boundary and the Pacific side and the plate boundary itself. You can draw a straight line out here. Something, it's definitely something brewing out here, I feel. So be on guard for that, along with the Bay Area activity here in the last couple days. We got a noticeable uptick in movement out here across. Not so much down in Southern California. Yes, it got a lot of smaller microquake activity, but it almost seems like the Parkfield section northward into the Bay Area, where there's been a number of events there above the 2.5 range. Let's take a look at this here. In the last week alone, we've had 7 of them. This is just the Bay Area, 3.5 in Vallejo. Largest is going to be that Vallejo earthquake. Also a couple other above 2.5 levels and some 3s out there on many different faults. So when you mix in the factor here of today's events and yesterday's events down there across the oceanic fault, it's called the oceanic fault zone, but it's not out in the ocean. It's a major area here where the interaction of the plate boundary between the plate boundary, the North American and the Pacific plate, tend to collide, and you get these other fault systems here that are forming. These, this is sliding past each other. Obviously, it's not a subduction zone or any kind of uplift going on out here. This is just a strike slip transform boundary. But there is some thrust faults out here because of the interaction that's taking place here between the two plates. But we will watch that because the 6-pointer out there, when was the last one? Back in 1829. And it's a little absent here once you get down to the southern end here of this west. Is that Husana? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't. Feel free to correct me. I'm not going to get offended. But this is absent here of some larger movement. I don't know how big that rupture was with the 6-pointer back in 1829. It's possible it could have been this entire length, but still, it's a little bit of time has passed there for sure. The movement up north and now this activity down south. Watch the Bay Area. It is stuck roughly down in this area along the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. Not so much going on. In fact, if you look here at Southern California in general, most of the activity has been happening down there south of Mexicali into the Baja California region. We've seen a number of earthquakes out there in the last 30 days. Mostly smaller microquake activity out here today. Nothing above 2.5 for Southern California. I don't see any major swarming going on here across Southern California. A couple notes here to mention is this activity north there of the Hollywood Fault. 2 little earthquakes from yesterday. It's just interesting there because this area stirred up last year when we had a bunch of 4s out here across Southern California. So now we got some further activity there. No 4s yet, but I'm just noting that. Also, a couple earthquakes here off of the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault, but I don't know. It's the West Coast definitely primed, very primed out here for some big earthquake potential, and it could happen at any time. There's another earthquake up here along the southern end of the Calaveras Fault, it looks like. Pretty active, stretching up here. How many quakes we got out here in the last 7 days, specifically in this area? There's been a couple swarms out here. About 39 earthquakes. The main cluster over here, south of the San Ramon area. Bunch of 1s, bunch of 3s in there as well. The largest, I believe, is going to be that 3.3 in the mix, at least according to the last 7 days here. Now, if we go back to the last 30 days, it raises the number up, and you can kind of see where areas of interest are. There's a lot of fault movement out here. A lot of faults have yet to move, and those are the big ones that can produce some big earthquake activity. Nothing major going on there across the Pacific Northwest. Relatively quiet for now. Yellowstone up here, there's a number of earthquakes being listed on the map here. A bunch of 1s and some smaller quake activity. So let's go take a look here at the Yellowstone Webby quarters, a recorded view here. We can see what's been going on here. Earthquake activity, it looks like it's occurring maybe up here around YML. There's a little bit of earthquake activity stirred up around 3 to 4 in the morning mountain time here. Nothing big. I think the largest is going to be 2.1 there, about 4 o'clock in the morning. That's my time, so that should show up around 5 or so, right about here, I'm guessing. But nothing big, no major swarms. Sometimes the Yellowstone stirs up these little, I call them spitter spatter events, where it just kicks out a lot of earthquake activity in a short amount of time period, and then it just dies off. There's definitely way more than, let me get back here, where these guys showing about 8 earthquakes. I don't even think they covered all of those here this morning, because if you look here, there's definitely, you can probably count way more than 8 here in this last 24-hour period. This looks like maybe some wind events out there. Let's see, that was over here. Let me check this seismograph station. That doesn't pick up that reading. It does pick up the earthquakes there. that I was just mentioning, but that might be some type of error on this station here. Maybe some adjustment there temporarily because it kicked up and then it just went away. So that's at Yellowstone National Park up there in northwestern Wyoming. Oil fields of Texas still rocking and rolling out here. Definitely kicking up outside of Midland and Big Spring. Nothing big, but I suppose we should see a 5 out here eventually. Occasionally we get these 5s every few months or so, and it's been about that time, maybe even longer since we've had a 5-pointer, even an upper 4, so just keep your eyes open for that. Those bigger quakes there can definitely do a little bit of damage locally. New Madrid seismic zone, pretty quiet, not a whole lot going on out there for now. Taking a look here at the world view as far as newer activity overnight. Of course, we got that 5.2 up here along the Russia area, Kamchatka region. This is where the 8.8 struck back in July. Still seeing some aftershock activity there. The Taiwan area starting to fill in. There's some 4s. Fairly recent this morning, it looks like. Nankai Trough absent of earthquake activity. Bunch of newer movement here across the Tonga area and the Vanuatu. Quite a bit of there's a mixed bag of some deeper activity and some shallow adjustment. Earthquake activity coming to a halt here about North Island region of New Zealand. Watch maybe here for some further migration because we've had a little bit of activity further south here. I believe that's been in the last week or so. Yeah, this quake right here, 5-pointer. Leaving New Zealand out there in that absent zone of anything moderate, even at least moderate occurring. There's obviously some smaller quake activity happening out there, but just keep an eye on that. What do we got there? Is that another 2.9 coming into the Baja California area, it looks like? What is that movement way up north into Washington? Did I miss that? 2.8, Loomis, Washington. That was this morning, about 5 o'clock or so. Nothing big, but if I remember, this area is getting a little bit of a swarm going on up there. If we're going back the last couple months, this would be a little bit heavier in terms of the multitude of counts. Not for sure what's going on out here. Some adjustment. The latest one at 2.8, pretty shallow though. Not for sure what's out here. Looks like some farmland. And I don't know what this place is. I don't know if this is mining or just maybe a farm. It's hard to tell. But yeah, anyway, a little bit of activity stirring up there in Washington. Also along the Canada area. Let's go check out the Canada websites here real quick. Earthquakes, Canada. Let's see. There's actually not a whole lot going on here. Some smaller quake activity here in the last week, but I don't see anything big going on out there across the BC area. For the entirety out here, let's see what we got. Really not a whole lot of newer activity. Looks pretty quiet up in the north as far as recent activity goes. Hawaii still seeing some earthquake activity. Got a pretty good cluster going on around. It's been around the East Rift Zone here, but now it looks like we got some activity stirring up around Mauna Loa, getting shallow up there. So we better go see what's going on. You know, we've been talking about these rinse and repeat cycles of eruptions there at Kilauea Volcano, but eventually that's got to change. We're not going to be doing that for years and years and years. It's coming up on a year. Next month it'll be a year that we've had that continuous eruption activity there at Kilauea Volcano. The latest information here was that update 10 days ago, how episode 36 ended. Been watching the deformation data here at Kilauea Volcano, and we're still going up. It does look like we're on tap here to see episode 37 in a number of days. But I'm more interested in the earthquake activity that's happening around the Mauna Loa area. Definitely got some movement happening. Looks like it's around the eastern side here. GPS conditions. Is this cover recent? Nope. Negative. Let's go back over here. Is this recent? GPS? Yeah, what in the world's going on here? Where's our Where's our instrument maintenance people at? We got stuff that's not working. We should be out there fixing it, right? I mean, I pay my taxes, so this is technically mine and your seismograph stations out here, and it's not working. Is there any tilt meters up here? Well, this is recent, at least. I don't see any major adjustment there at the summit region, but I just want to see what's going on here across the eastern side here, where some of that earthquake activity is occurring. We already checked that one, right? Oh, man. Yeah, all of these are just offline, and it doesn't do any good here to even have the data up if it's not accurate. Look at that. Still, it's something happened in September. You know, did someone lose their job? What's going on there? You know, why did the instruments there stop at the 2024 level? But we'll kind of watch this. There's the Kilauea Summit still smoking over there. Volcanic gases, that's what's going on. But interesting activity out there around the eastern side here of Mauna Loa with the earthquake activity. And it's not just today. This has been, been happening out here. A little bit more elevated activity than normal across the lower east rift zone, around the hill in the slump, down there underneath Pahala. Number of earthquakes underneath Mauna Loa. There was even some up around the summit area here in the last 30 days. So I don't think there's any update on them. Let's go see. Let's see if there's anything being put out here. Mauna Loa. Latest update was green and normal. At least they're updating it there back on the 6th of this month. Yeah, it's just was supposed to go to the data. Anyway, I'll double check that. Keep an eye on the volcanoes out there. Let's see what else we got for worldwide activity. Is there another earthquake in there? Looks like another 4.9 came into the Kamchatka, Russia area. I don't know if that just got added, or I don't think it was there. There's a little earthquake on the Kagoshima station there around the Nankai Trough, Japan region. Small little earthquake, but an earthquake. Some deeper activity here underneath India, it looks like. Not so much going on here across the Mediterranean region. Just some 2s and 3s. It looks typical out there for any given day. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet though. Look at that. Nothing going on. Middle America Trench, still pretty active. Even a lot of this is from yesterday. Handful of newer quakes there today as well. Looks like there's a pretty deep earthquake here off the coast there of Costa Rica. Watch that. Southern end of the Middle America Trench been pretty active. South America, quite a bit of uptick going on here as well. Even a 5-pointer down there off the coast of Chile. Right on the Peruccioli Trench, that major subduction zone. It looks like it's in the region where that 9.5 struck back in 1960. I believe that's the right date. The largest earthquake ever recorded. Possible we could see larger than that. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on fault rupture out there. Let's go ahead and check out space weather. See if anything is happening here on the sun. We going down. We are going all the way down into the B flare category here in the last couple days. A little C flare activity. But man, these sunspots, 4284 here, just kind of faded off into the sunset, so to speak. Getting slower and slower each time I go to this site. I know it's not me. I got probably one of the more faster internets you can have out here. But this thing is just got to do with them. I'm only going to be able to go as fast as these guys are putting up to the internet. Yeah, this sunspot over here looking not so. It's still got a little bit of complexity here, but really starting to fade off a little bit. We'll watch that. It's just about ready to go off there on the western limb. After that, there's not a whole lot here. Center disk of the sun. As far as the far side goes, let's see what we got out there. This is old, but it still gives a general idea of what's coming. Earth-facing side of the sun, eastern limb. There's that massive sunspot there on the far side of the sun that produced those X flares and the recent CME activity, and of course auroras as a result of all that activity here last week. It's still large out there in coverage area. We'll see if that holds together here in quite a few days, a couple weeks or so, maybe not even that amount, as it comes back around onto the eastern limb here. But right now, there's a couple weak sunspots out there on the far side that have yet to crest over here. But we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think we're going to see anything major going on there for solar flare activity for now. No major coronal holes facing the planet. I'm sure you guys have seen this floating around on social media. Look at this. A giant butterfly moth has opened up on the sun. This is from like over 2 months ago, and people still sharing it as new data. It's from the SDO. The SDO site is having some issues with their hardware and whatnot. So this is not the latest imagery. This one is. And really no massive coronal holes facing us for now. So flare threat will remain low. 15% chance there for M flare, X flare around 1%. Definitely low on that. 75% chance there for C flare activity. And not a whole lot of roars there in the forecast for now, folks. Marginal risk for some severe weather out here across Texas, New Mexico, up into Missouri and Oklahoma. It's mainly due to, looks like some wind threat there, tornado potential down in Texas, and maybe even a little bit of large hail being associated with some of that severe weather out there today. The extended forecast model here got a quick mover of a storm system slamming in. I can't say slamming, but quickly moving past California. Southern California going to get some more substantial moisture from that cutoff low as well. And then after that, things start to change out here. We get a little blue on the map here for you snow lovers. And it still looks like it's on tap here to produce some cold temperatures across the nation as we enter into the last month of the year. That's going to be a severe weather day right here if that holds true. A lot of colder air interacting with the warmer, moist air with that jet stream. That's when you can get some big-time severe weather setups there in the south. Look at that. It could be a bad scenario if that holds true. We'll check back on that a little bit later date. But, it's just kind of a winter-looking map out there, which is expected for December, right? I can't believe it's already coming up on December, the end of the year. Going to have to start calling it 2026. Wow. Crazy. All right. I'm out of here, folks. Have yourself a good day. We'll see you guys out here a little bit later. Keep an eye here. Like I said, it's been active right about that region northward. Somewhat quiet down here. Locked as expected here across the San Andreas Fault. Southern branch. Of course, that extends further down. But we'll keep an eye on things. We'll see you guys out here a little bit later on this evening for the Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I know I made a little mistake on the description last night. I appreciate those that jumped in and notified me of it, and I quickly fixed it. Hey, mistakes are making. I'm only human. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here tonight. Take care.